Anybody else feeling like you dislike Professor Carrie Milgram less and less every episode? 'Cause I'm there. Hey y'all, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the tribe. If you are returning the first TV, welcome back. So happy to have you. Today we are back for a Power Book 2 review. We are going to be reviewing episode 5, which is titled Coming Home to Roost. And we just not even gonna waste no time. We gonna jump right in. I'm trying very hard to make these shorter, but it's so hard with Power because the show is in itself is made up of these like short little scenes that are each so important to the story. So you can't you have to discuss every single one. So it's just hard to make these short. If you like them being long, then cool. If you wish they were shorter, I don't know what to tell you. It'd be a lot to say. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it, not waste a lot of time. Of course, while you're here, if you are enjoying the content, make sure that you give this video a like. And if you like the content here at Fierce TV, definitely make sure that you subscribe so that you can be notified when I post my other videos. I am a cultural critic, and this channel is all about critiques of movie, television, and the culture as a whole. So let's go ahead and get into Power Book 2, Season 2, Episode 5, Coming Home to Roost. So we're starting off this episode where we left off last time. We basically had Zeke completely bomb his interview with Jamil Hill. And as a result of that, basically Davis let him know, look, you're going to have to go ahead and turn yourself in so that you don't look guilty, because after that interview, it's giving very much guilty. Even though Zeke is not guilty. So that's why it makes me so like hurt in my spirit, because he's actually not guilty of this. So it just really sucks. But either way, Davis and Monet are on the way to take Zeke into the police station so that he can voluntarily turn himself in to pretty much help his case for the most part. They're pretty much talking to him and letting him know, how he's gonna need to act when he turns himself in. Don't talk to nobody when you go in, all that good stuff. So they're kind of preparing him for this. And in the meantime, Tariq wakes up. He's over at his boo thing's dorm room. He wakes up, he sees a text message from Davis saying that they're on the way to take Zeke in, and he immediately gets up and starts getting dressed. Once he gets up and starts getting dressed, Lauren comes out the bathroom and she's like, hold on, wait, I'm almost done getting ready. By the time she comes out the bathroom, Tariq is already gone. So when Zeke, Monet, and Davis get to the police station, Davis is just like, hey, we're here to turn Zeke in. And the boo thing of Cooper Saxe ends up coming out, and Kamal and Detective Whitman are behind her. And she's basically like, look, there's no need. We no longer, need him to turn himself in. He's actually free to go. And Davis is like, I mean, y'all was doing all this extra stuff the other day. Like, what's going on? At this point in time, Kamal is about to let them know that, hey, we have a new suspect, but Whitman interrupts him in the middle of his sentence and stops him from saying it. And so Davis is basically just like, look, we need an explanation. Y'all need to let us know what's going on. I expect you to do a full press conference letting the masses know that Zeke is all good, because y'all, was all over the news and stuff, like making it seem like he committed a murder. And so they're like, cool, whatever, we'll do that. And so then Zeke, Monet, and Davis leave. In the hallway, Monet is kind of talking to Zeke, and she's like, see, everything's all good. She's thinking shit's about to be sweet. And Zeke is like, no, because even though they let me go, who's gonna draft me now that I've been wrapped up in all this stuff? Shit ain't sweet. So he's basically letting her know, no, we don't just go back to everything's all good between us. No. It seemed like, child, from that car ride a few episodes back, that hilarious ass car ride, it's gonna take a little bit. It's gonna take a little bit for him to forgive his auntie slash mama. So after Monet and them leave, Kamal goes up to Whitman and he's pissed off and he's like, why did you cut me off back there? And Whitman is basically like, you know, I didn't want you to tell Zeke that we had another suspect. I didn't want you to let him know that. And Kamal is like, why not though? Like, we don't need to be going after Zeke. Like, it's very clear that Whitman is still trying to make Zeke be the person that committed this murder. And we know why. He only wants Zeke to be the person because he wants to hurt Carrie Milgram. And I hope that they don't let this whole entire season end without giving us the full details of why Whitman hates Milgram so much. Because I get the fact that, okay, y'all dated, y'all had a little thing, maybe it didn't work out and Whitman was feeling some type of way. But it feels like it's more than that. Like, the way that he is going after her in this personal of a way, it's just like, it gotta be more to this story. And the actions of Carrie lately is making her seem very questionable to me. So at this point, I'm like, what are you really capable of, Carrie Milgram? Because it's giving very much you did something hella grimy to this man. And that is why. Like, it's more than just we used to mess around and things didn't go well. Like, I don't know. Let me know what y'all think. But I'm like, Carrie, you're capable of some trash stuff, it seems. And I really want to know what really happened. I really hope they give us the tea on this, the full story of why Whitman is so adamant of hurting her. Like, he is still like, he is going to make Zeke be the bad guy just so he could take her down. But anyway, Kamal is like, why are you still trying to go after Zeke? And he ends up bringing up the situation about the book. And he's just like, look, I've been reading Professor Reynolds' book. He was talking about some real serious drug stuff that was going on at a university, and a lot of like the landmarks was matching up to the landmarks up at the school. And I feel like he was talking about somebody at the school, and we need to really investigate James St. Patrick, because it was really seeming like that's what he was talking about. And he's really trying to push for them to investigate Tariq St. Patrick. Meanwhile, Whitman is just completely adamant about it being Zeke. So Tariq goes to the dorm. He's grabbing some stuff on his way out the door. Brayden is there, and Brayden is basically like, hey, you know, some of our customers got called in to talk to police and stuff. Like, it's some stuff going on. It's some heat coming down. And Tariq is just kind of like preoccupied. He's just grabbing stuff. And Brayden is like, hey, like, are you listening to me? And Tariq is basically just like, look, Brayden, it's some serious shit going down. Like, if anybody from the Tahata family come around, like, don't tell them nothing. Don't say nothing to them. Don't talk to nobody from the Tahata family. Like, it's some stuff going down. You just need to stay away from them. If they come around, don't say nothing to them, basically. And he just gets his stuff and he dips, and he asked Brayden, like, have you seen anybody from the Tahatas? Like, have any of them came by here or anything like that? Of course, Brayden says no, even though he been out here hitting licks with Kane. So he just out here lying. Dante and Monet are in their bar, and she's basically just kind of talking to him about the situation and what's going on. She's letting him know that, like, they let Zeke go and he didn't have to turn himself in after all. And Dante is basically like just trying to entice her to basically leave her husband and her family. I mean, well, not leave her family. He wants her to leave her husband. He's like, I could take care of you and I could take care of your kids. He shows her the paperwork and he's like, I could get trust funds for all your kids, you know, not just Zeke, which this is a really nice contrast to in the last episode when Monet went to Lorenzo and she was asking for the money to help Zeke get out. And Lorenzo was like, no, if it was our kids, I would do it, but I'm not going to do it for your nephew. Meanwhile, here is Dante that is willing to provide for her and all of her kids, not just the one that's his. So I feel like that is one of the things that's going to kind of like maybe push Monet into his direction, because we haven't gotten any like interaction between Zeke and Lorenzo, because Lorenzo's been in jail the whole show. But just from that conversation where he was like, no, I'm not doing that for your nephew, like it was just giving very much like, so you only care about your own kids, which I mean, I guess you can't blame him, but at the same time, it's like, that's still your wife's family, even though you don't know that's your wife's child, but you at least know that's her nephew and that that's someone important to her. So for him to just callously be like, I don't care about him, only for my kids, it was just kind of like, it was kind of trash. It was a little trash. So I feel like this is like gonna be one of the things that's gonna maybe like help sway Monet more in the direction of Dante a little bit, because he's like offering to like do shit for her kids, even the ones that are not his. So I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Basically, you know, he's showing her these trust funds. He's like, I can sign these right now. We can run off. I can give you the life you want. You're not going to have to be out here in these streets. You could just be, you know, taken care of by me and all this stuff. And Monet is just like, I can't think about this right now. It's too much to think about right now. But she don't say no. So Professor Milgram gets a phone call, and it's Monet, and Monet is basically letting her know, look, Zeke, it was let go. They dropped, you know, the charges they had on him. They said that he's not a suspect no more. So whatever you was doing, you need to stop doing it. Remember, Monet had told Milgram that she needed to try and basically solve this murder in order to get Zeke free. But she's like, whatever you was doing, stop it. Stop doing it. Zeke is good. Now you just stay away from him. Literally, as soon as Professor Milgram gets off the phone with Monet, in comes Kamal and Detective Whitman to talk to her about the case. So it's like, girl, Monet just told you to stop doing what you was doing, and you finna still be doing what you was doing. So Kamal comes in and he's talking to Milgram, and he's just basically asking her stuff about the case and like just trying to get information from her. And at first she's like, you know, no, I can't give any information. You know, I mean, she was literally just threatened by Monet, so clearly she's not trying to get murked. But then Kamal just kind of is like, I thought you said you was a cop. Don't you want to get justice for Professor Reynolds and da-da-da? And he's like, you know, at the very least you can do is read his manuscript and see like if you know who he's talking about in the book. So we're in canonical studies class. Lauren is salty with Tariq because he got up and dipped out on her this morning before she even had a chance to get dressed. And he was like, look, I'm sorry. I had to leave. I'm trying to make an appointment so I can try to get an off-campus apartment, because that's one of the things that I'm going to need to get in order to be able to take care of my sister. So, you know, Lauren is a little salty, but she, you know, understands that it has to do with his sister. And so Professor Milgram starts teaching the class, and she's doing this whole little speech about karma. She's being hella aggressive with Tariq. She's like, but what do you know about karma, Tariq? And then like Lightskin Keisha or somebody like tries to answer the question. She's like, I'm talking to Tariq. Like, she's being very aggressive and very over the top. And it's like, girl, I'm pretty sure if you like trying to solve this case, you probably should be being subtle. This is not subtle. So she was just being hella over the top, hella extra. And clearly she is like wanting to take Tariq down for this whole situation, even though, girl, you don't know that Tariq did anything. Like, you may think you have some ideas about some things, but the only thing you know for sure is that the Tahata family are criminals. You don't really know anything about Tariq. So it's just like, she was so eager to jump on the train of he's this awful kid. And I was just like, how did we get here? Because a few episodes ago, when Tariq was like contemplating whether or not he was going to plant that phone in her desk and he decided not to, she was still like feeling like Tariq was a good kid. And she was still like vouching for Tariq. So I'm just like, you made a really far jump really quickly. And I don't see like the evidence that would have led you to make that jump. Because at the end of the day, the only thing you know is that the Tahata family is dirty. You don't really know how deep Tariq is wrapped with the Tahata family. Like, you don't have any factual evidence on Tariq. And so I'm just like, girl, you're doing a lot at this point. Like, at this point, Whitman, get her. Whatever you was gonna do to her, do it. Because I'm over it. So after class, Tariq and Lauren are just kind of talking. They're talking about him like having an appointment for later on, trying to go see an apartment. And she was like, oh, you want me to take you? But then Monet ends up pulling up on him and she's like, nah, you finna come with me. So he's like, oh, I gotta go. This is, this is Zeke's auntie. He's the best, I tutor him. So he just kind of plays it off like it has to do with like tutoring Zeke. And he goes off with Monet. So he gets in the car. Monet is sitting. She got the blicky on her lap. Okay. So full threatening mode. And she's like, what was the first thing that I told you when you started working for me? And basically it was not to let any of that come anywhere near Zeke. And so now it really makes sense why she was like always like from the very beginning going so hard to keep Zeke out of it. Like initially it just seemed like she was doing that because she didn't want to interfere with his like NBA aspirations, because that was going to be beneficial to the family, like on some money shit. But of course now we know that it's really because that's her son. But anyway, so she's not happy about it. She's asking him what happened. He basically corroborates the same story that Kane already told her. And so she ends up driving him off to some like she drives him off to some little secluded tunnel, and they're under the tunnel, and she got the gun on her lap, and she's just like, I need, you're lucky that, I don't use this right now. The only reason I'm not is because we still need each other. I need you to find out who Kane's connect is, but you better not let Kane find out, because if Kane finds out that I sent you to do this, then it's gonna be trouble, okay? And so then she's like, now get out and find your ride home. Why do they always do him like that? Like, why don't nobody be trying to drop him off at home? They know he don't got no car. It's hilarious at this point. Meanwhile, Milgram, Kamal, and Whitman, the three amigos, they're talking about the case. They're talking about the book. At this point, Milgram has read the book and she's like, it's about Tariq. It's definitely 100% about Tariq. And Whitman is questioning it because he's like, no, because the person in Reynolds' book was sleeping with the professor, so it's about Zeke. And she's like, no, because Reynolds thought that I was sleeping with Tariq. He didn't realize that I was sleeping with Zeke. He thought it was Tariq the whole time. And so she's just letting them know, like, look, everything in this book, it's about Tariq. Kamal brings up the fact that they were saying the person that was like in charge of the drug stuff on campus was a preppy white guy. And Milgram was like, well, maybe, Tariq is in cahoots with his roommate Braden. And Kamal immediately is like, Braden Weston, why would he need to sell drugs? And I'm just like, why would Tariq St. Patrick need to sell drugs? Are these not both two kids from very wealthy families? Like, come on, I'm gonna need you to help me understand why you think it's plausible that the black student is selling drugs, but the white student isn't. It's giving anti-blackness, it's giving internalized racism, and I don't like it. He was very, very quick to just write Braden off, like, oh no, Braden, why would he do that? And it's just like, meanwhile, Braden is the one that's the most gung-ho about being in the drug shit. So I'm just like, come on. I'm gonna need you to get it together immediately. But either way, they're talking about it. Of course, Whitman, he just wants it to be Zeke. So he's questioning everything that Milgram is saying. Kamal is kind of open to either one, but he's like, we need evidence either way. And he's like, the key is going to be the wire that Lauren is wearing. That's the key. We're going to have to get something on the wire that basically is going to need to, if in order for there to be motive, we're going to have to prove that Tariq knew what was in Professor Reynolds' book, and that was why he had to kill him. So Monet and Kane meet up at the bar. She's basically letting him know, like, look, I talked to Tariq. He basically, corroborated everything that you said. Kane is real salty because he's like, so you let him live. You didn't do nothing to him. Like, he really wanted Monet to like come down on Tariq, but she didn't, and so it's clearly making him feel away. And she's just like, look, I can't just, I still need him. Like, at this point in time, I still need him. I still need him to be moving product at the school. So I can't come down on him the way that, you know what I'm saying, I normally would. And so she basically tells Kane, like, look, what I need you to do, I need you to find out Tariq's weaknesses, because if I knew his weakness, then I could control him and we wouldn't have these type of problems out of him. We're having these type of problems out of him because he's not afraid. And so she's like, look, we gonna need to work together. I need to be able to trust you and you need to be able to trust me, and I need you to go find Tariq's weakness. Now, mind you, Monet just sent Tariq to go find out who Kane's connect is. So, girl, what kind of games are you playing? You doing a lot, and you be doing a lot, and your plans don't even really be like fully fleshed out. And then when they fail, you be blaming other people. Monet, get it together, sis. Get it together. So Professor Milgram calls Lauren into her office to talk to her about the case and about the wire that she's wearing. And she basically just flat out lies to this girl. She's like, yeah, they're thinking that Brayden is the person that's in charge of like all this drug stuff. And Lauren is like, well, what about Tariq? And she's like, oh no, they don't think Tariq is involved at all. And it's like, girl, you literally are lying to her. Basically, if she thinks that Tariq is the main suspect, she's going to be like, child, I'm not about to wear this shit. Like, I'm not about to get Tariq in trouble. But by her thinking it's Brayden, like, she'll still wear it, and hopefully she'll still get some information. So, child, Milgram just lied to her so easily. And I'm like, Milgram, I don't like you. I was rooting for you when Whitman was coming for you. But you are pissing me off. So she flat out lies to her. She tells her that Tariq is not, you know, nobody's looking at Tariq as a suspect, and they're basically looking at Brayden, and she's like, we need to get information on him. Lauren is basically like, well, I need to tell Tariq that, you know, they're looking at Brayden, because I need to tell Tariq to stay away from Brayden, you know, because I don't want him to get in trouble. And she's like, no, you can't do that, because what if you let him know something and Brayden ends up finding out, and then Brayden might end up telling the wrong person, and then that could come back on Tariq. Tariq could get hurt. And so she basically scares her into not saying anything. And I'm just like, Milgram, you are a piece of work. And it's just so funny because characters like Milgram that are like, try to act like they're on some type of moral high ground. Cooper Saxe does this a lot. And it's just like, you're acting like you have some sort of moral high ground over other people like Tariq or like Monet Tahata, but you moving grimy too. Like, you are lying to this girl, essentially putting her in danger by having her around dangerous people wearing a wire and stuff. And you moving real grimy, Milgram. So Brayden pulls up to him and Tariq's dorm, and Kane is there, and he's basically asking Brayden, like, where is Tariq? I've been calling him. He's not answering. And Brayden is just basically like, look, I don't know where he is. I haven't seen him. Maybe he is at his girlfriend's. I don't know. At that point, there's a knock on the door. It's Lauren. Kane is trying to get down. He goes up there. He's like, hey, light skin. And I'm just like, ew. But he goes up to her. He's being hella flirtatious. He's like, yeah, my name is Lorenzo, da 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 da. I'm Zeke's cousin, blah blah blah. I didn't know Kane's name was Lorenzo. I thought his name was actually Kane, but apparently he's Lorenzo Tahata Jr. Who knew? But anyway, you know, he's introducing himself to her and stuff. Mind you, Lauren is wearing a wire. So at this point, you know, it's going to be on the wire that Kane Tahata was at the dorm talking to Brayden while looking for Tariq. So that ain't going to be good. But either way, Lauren is just like asking Brayden. She's like, look, where's Tariq? Have you seen him? Da da da. We're supposed to be going and looking at an apartment together. And Kane is like, oh, he's moving out. And, Brayden immediately shuts the conversation down. He's like, oh, we're about to go get something to eat, da da da. And, he hurries up and like rushes Lauren away. But that whole conversation is on the wire that Lauren is wearing. So it's just like, girl, listen, remember this. Remember I said this. I feel like it's going to come out somehow that there was a wire and that Lauren was wearing it, and Tariq is going to find out and he's going to have to kill her. I feel like that's what's going to happen. I don't know why, but I just feel like that's what's going to happen. So meanwhile, Tariq pulls up on the conservator dude that's over his and Yasmin's estate. And he's basically like, look, I have a court hearing tomorrow at 3 to try and get custody of my sister. Can you represent me? At first, the guy is kind of like unsure about it, but ultimately Tariq convinces him. So he's basically going to speak on Tariq's behalf at the hearing, which is going to be the next day at 3 o'clock. So Kane and Mecca are talking about the whole situation with Zeke, and Kane basically lets Mecca know that, like, that he pretty much gave Monet the tea on Tariq, but Monet didn't come down on Tariq the way that he thought he would, and he's just kind of feeling away about it. And so at that point, Mecca is putting 2 and 2 together, and he's like, oh, so you and Tariq must have been behind the murder that Zeke is accused of. And at first, Kane is like denying it. He's like, no, I didn't say all that. And then Mecca is like, look, like, that's the only way that you would have been willing to like leave town in order to avoid Zeke going down for this. Like, come on, like, let's be honest here. And so he basically has put 2 and 2 together, and pretty much Kane is just like letting Mecca know that, like, man, like, Monet just seems to favor Tariq for some reason. Like, the way she comes down on me, she don't be coming down on him. Like, I don't know. And Mecca is basically just like, look, you need to make sure that Monet chooses you over him, like, by any means necessary, even if you have to force her hand. I don't really understand why Mecca would have a vested interest in making sure that Monet chooses Kane over Tariq, because at the end of the day, Kane is not his kid. But also, if Kane is somehow out of the picture, then he no longer has the power over that family as the connect. So Drew and his bae are in the room. They're chilling. They're making out. And Zeke ends up pulling up. He's knocking on the door to let his teammate know that, he's been released, whatever. He got the little blonde hair situation. He's like, I'm a new person since I've been released. Everything's finna be different, da 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 da. And at the same time, he's like asking questions. He's like, hey, how do y'all know each other? Because as far as he knows, they wouldn't have any interaction with each other. And so Drew is like, oh yeah, remember we met at the club that night when all that, crazy shit went down, the fight went down, and da da da. And so Zeke is like, oh, okay, cool. Because remember, the teammate doesn't want people to know that he's gay. And of course, Drew, his family pretty much knows, but he's, keeping that secret to protect his boo. And so basically, Zeke, he buys it or whatever. Zeke is dumb. He ain't asking too many questions. So he leaves. And then dude is just like, oh, you lied so easily. And I'm just like, but you want him to lie about this. Like, you want him to keep your secret. So I'm just like, dude, just hush. You have agreed to be in this relationship with somebody that has a questionable lifestyle and a questionable family. So just hush. Stop with all the sidebars and asking questions, and you're gonna get lied to. This is what you have signed up for. So Tariq pulls up on Diana and he's basically like, look, I need you to be able to get some product without Monet knowing. Can you help me with that? At first, Diana is like, why would I do that? Like, you're trying to get me in trouble with Monet, da-da-da. And then Tariq is just like, look, it's complicated. It has to do with my sister. Like, I'm trying to get custody of her. And, you know, I would ask Kane, but I just don't trust him. Like, can you do this for me? And so once he throws out the fact that he doesn't trust Kane, she's like, you know, that's crazy. I don't trust Kane right now either. She goes ahead and lets Tariq know that she feels like he's the person that sugared their drug supply in order for him to become the new Connect. And Tariq is like, dang, that's crazy. Like, that do make sense. And so basically, like, they work out an arrangement and Diana is pretty much like, look, see what you can find out on, you know, whether or not Kane did that, and I'll get you the drugs that you need, basically. So as soon as Diana leaves from meeting with Tariq, she goes and meets with Kane, and she's basically letting him know, like, look, we need to front Tariq some drugs without Monet knowing. And at first Kane is like, absolutely not. Like, why would I do that? I don't even like Tariq, you know. But then Diana throws it out there like, oh, well, I'm gonna let Monet know that you was the one that, you know, sugared the drugs and da-da-da-da-da. And so, you know, at that point, he's just like, okay, I'll do it, but make sure that Tariq shows up to pick the drugs up himself, because of course he's been looking for Tariq. He's been trying to reach out to him, and Tariq has basically been ignoring his calls. So he's like, I'll drop it off to him, make sure he comes to pick it up, and da-da-da. And so he's gonna do it so that Diana doesn't tell Monet that he was the one that, like, sugared the drugs. So Lauren and Professor Milgram are with the cops. They're listening to the information that she got from the wire that she's wearing. They're basically listening to the conversation from when she pulled up on Braden and Kane. And so, you know, they're like, okay, so Kane Tahata is in the mix somehow. And they're like, we need more information. And they're basically sending her to get more information, but they're gonna upgrade her device from it, just because currently the device that she's wearing is one where, like, it records the stuff and then she has to take it to the police so that they can listen to what it recorded. They're going to upgrade it to a live device to where whatever is happening that she's recording, they can hear it as it's happening. So, child, I'm just like, Lord, this girl is going to get killed. They are really sending this girl to get killed. It is wild. So once Whitman gets the information that Kane is Zeke's cousin, he's like, oh, well, this makes sense. If Zeke's cousin is Kane and he has this rap sheet and stuff, because they've looked him up, they've seen that he has a record and all this stuff, and he's like, yeah, if Kane is his cousin, then he wouldn't have had to kill Jabari himself. All he would have had to do was send his cousin to do it. So this makes sense. Of course, Whitman is just trying to get Zeke to be the person that did it so that he can take down Carrie Milgram in conjunction. Like, that's all he cares about. So Monet goes to meet with Lorenzo and talk to him about everything that's going on. While she's there talking to him, he gets a phone call and he's like, oh, I gotta take this. And she's like, are you for real? Like, you gonna take a call, like, while I'm here visiting you? He's like, yes. He takes the call. It's Cooper Saxe basically letting him know that, like, hey, we found some information in your case that we could potentially be able to let you free, because remember, Diana paid them to, like, look into his case. So it's giving very much Lorenzo is about to be out of jail. That's what it's giving. Meanwhile, Whitman has gone to go meet with Cooper Saxe boo Jenny at a bar. He basically wants to check with her and see if she can, like, look further into Kane. He basically is giving her the information that he has about Kane and telling her his theory that, like, it was Zeke. He didn't do it himself, though. He basically paid his cousin Kane to do it, and Kane already has a record, and he's a bad dude, and he's involved in some crazy stuff. And so he's basically pushing that theory into her lap, while Kamal is off to the side trying to make it be, you know, Tariq. It's just so funny how they're so off, but they're not off. You know, like, they have the right people, but they have no idea, you know? But anyway, so while Whitman is there at the bar talking to Jenny about this. Cooper Saxe walks into the bar. I guess he was coming to meet Jenny there so they could go do their little boo thing, whatever. And so he sees Whitman and Jenny like having this conversation, and so he's kind of like, what's going on? So Kane is at the meetup spot where he's supposed to be bringing this product to Tariq, but instead of Tariq showing up, Brayden shows up. Kane is not happy about it. He's like, I wanted it to be Reek. And Brayden is like, look, I'm just doing what I'm told. He told me to show up. So they exchange the products, whatever is whatever. Meanwhile, Tariq has borrowed Lauren's car and he's waiting off in the cut. And so once Brayden leaves, he follows Kane and ends up following him to Mecca's house. So he's pretty much watching Kane. He sees him go up to this intercom and then go up to this apartment. And after Kane goes up, then he goes over to the intercom. What he doesn't realize is that there's a camera. So Mecca, Kane, the Asian cook, chef dude, they all up there looking dead in Tariq's face because it's a whole camera out there. So then the dude that works for Mecca that he had knocked out a couple episodes ago, he shows up. He starts beating Tariq up. The whole time they're like asking Kane, like, do you know him? And Kane is like, look, I don't know him. Meanwhile, the dude is down there beating the mess out of Tariq. Poor Tariq. He getting dogged out down there. And the Asian dude is just kind of like clearly questioning it. Like, he clearly feels like Kane is lying. And he's like, he ain't gonna stop beating him up. Are you sure you don't know him? And Kane is just like, nah, I don't know him. And so finally he tells the dude to stop, and dude lets Tariq go. The dude that works for Mecca, I cannot remember his name, but he ended up getting Tariq's phone during the struggle, but Tariq does get away. So Reek is all beat up, face messed up. He drives to the Tahata house. Diana is there. She's like, oh my God, what happened to you? She's taking him inside. As she's taking him inside, Drew pulls up. He pulls up with his boo from the university. Tariq clocks it. He notices that that's who it is that Drew is pulling up with. And so they go in the house. Meanwhile, back at Mecca's house, the dude, Nuff is his name. His name is Nuff. He's like, yeah, I got his phone. Do you think he works for the op? Mecca is there now, and he's asking Kane, like, did you know him? Is this somebody that you know? Did you let him follow you? And like, Nuff is clearly like wanting Mecca to like come down on Kane for this, but Kane is like, look, I said I don't know him. And Mecca is like, okay, well then I guess you didn't know him. And Nuff gets mad about it. He's like, oh, you just gonna believe him? And at that point, Mecca is just over it with Nuff. And he like gives a signal to the Asian dude that's the chef, and the Asian dude just like slits his throat right then and there. And that's just that on that. Mecca needs Kane in order to maintain connection to the Tahata family. If he has to get rid of Kane, he doesn't have that. So he's not going to get rid of Kane at the end of the day. Kane and him have like a weird symbiotic relationship at this point. So, I mean, he's not going to get rid of Kane. Because at the end of the day, Mecca knows who Tariq is. Like, him and Kane already had a whole conversation about Tariq. He knows what Tariq looks like. He was spying on Tariq and Brayden that time. He knows that Kane knows who that is, but he cannot lose that connection to the Tahata family through Kane. So Davis goes to see his brother in jail, who is Redman, and they're having this conversation, and they're just basically talking about the situation where Davis is going to try to get sacked to get his brother out and stuff. And his brother is like, don't worry about it. Like, I'm cool. I'm fine. And he's like, if you start poking around, basically, like, they might start asking questions. And so when he says that, I'm like, why you don't want them to start asking questions? And then the brother is like, I would do anything to keep you safe, or something like that. And then I'm just like, wait a minute. Did Davis commit the murder that his brother's doing time for, and his brother's doing time to protect him, and that's why Davis wants so badly to get his brother out, but his brother is like, forget about it because he chose to do this time for him. Davis is a murderer. So I was like, yo, they were pretty clear. Like, tell me if y'all caught that. They were pretty clear that, like, the crime that Davis's brother is in for, Davis did it. And that's why his brother wants him to leave it alone, because he's like, look, I'm doing this bid for you. Don't even worry about trying to get me out. They might start asking questions. They might start looking at you again. No, I want you to be out there doing your, just leave it alone. But Davis is clearly feeling so guilty about his brother, like, doing a bid for something that he did. That's why he's trying to go so hard. I was like, yo, now that I was not expecting. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. So the next day, Tariq has the meeting with the apartment complex that he's trying to move into, because that's one of the criteria for him to be able to get custody of his sister. Lauren and him were supposed to go together. By the time he gets there, Lauren is already there with the lady. She's been there with her for a while. She's been texting Reek and calling Reek, but mind you, he doesn't have his phone because Mecca took it, right? And so, or Mecca's, like, Nuff, the dude that works for Mecca, took the phone. So by the time he gets there, he gets there, the lady's like, look, somebody already got the apartment. She's looking at Tariq all crazy because at this point he'd have been beat up. His face is looking crazy. So this lady is looking at him like, child, I'm not trying to sell you nothing anyway, because what do you got going on? Why are you coming up in here beat up? So she's looking at him crazy, and she's like, look, the apartment's gone. It is what it is. And so Tariq is just stressed out about it. Lauren is going off on him like, Tariq, where were you? Like, why wasn't you here? Like, but then she sees his face and she's like, oh my God, what happened? And he's just like super stressed because he's like, look, I needed this. I can't go to court without having this requirement met, or I'm not going to get custody of my sister. And so at that point, Lauren is like, look, come with me. You know, I got to show you something. She ends up taking him to the apartment that it's her brother's apartment, but of course her brother is like in rehab or something. And she's like, look, this is his apartment. I have the key, so that, you know, I can use it whenever I need to, but he doesn't need it, of course, because he's like in rehab and stuff. And she's like, you can use it. I created up a lease for you so that, you know, it can have your name on it and all that good stuff, so that you can get your sister. Y'all can stay as long as you need to until you can find something else. And so he's happy, you know, he's super grateful and stuff. And she's like, you know, I told you I could help. You just let me help, da da da. While they're there, Lauren takes the opportunity to just kind of like ask him about Brayden and just be like, you know, just low-key trying to warn him on the low to stay away from Brayden. But Tariq is like, why would I stay away from Brayden? Like, Brayden is not, you know, Brayden is not involved in this. And Lauren is just kind of like, well, you don't think it was weird that Brayden wasn't like sad when Professor Reynolds died and stuff? And Tariq is like, Brayden didn't even know Professor Reynolds. Like, he only knew him because of me, which is true. Like, Tariq is in canonical studies class, so that's how he knows Professor Reynolds. Brayden is not. So there would be no interaction between Brayden and Professor Reynolds. Like, he wouldn't have known him like that. And so he's like, yeah, Brayden only knew who Professor Reynolds was because of me. Like, he don't have no connections to him like that. Lauren is just kind of low-key trying to, like, let him know, like, that Brayden might be in some stuff without letting him know. But Tariq already know. Like, you trying to give him information and you don't even know who you really dealing with. Like, girl, like, just hush, okay? You trying to do too much and you don't even know what you getting into. And you wearing a wire. And so basically Lauren ends up like mentioning something about Professor Reynolds' book, and she's like saying how, like, is it about Brayden? And Tariq is like, no, it's not about Brayden. Like, they didn't even know each other. And so guess who's listening to this whole conversation? Because the wire that she's wearing was upgraded to a live listening device. Whitman and Kamal are listening to this whole conversation as Lauren is having it with Tariq. And at the point that Tariq makes it clear that he knew about the book, Kamal is like, boom, we got him. Whitman is like, I mean, that's still not enough to have to make an arrest or anything like that. Kamal is like, okay, but it's enough to get a search warrant. Mind you, we know that Kane planted that badge in Brayden and Tariq's dorm. And now Kamal is about to get a search warrant. So, it's not looking good at all. So, Kane pulls up on his mama. He throws the phone that Nuff had gotten off of Tariq. And he's like, yeah, I know you sent Tariq. Here, make sure he get his phone back. Like, and he is just pissed. He's like, you could have got us both killed. You had that conversation with me, talk about trust, and you done sent Tariq to follow me and da-da-da-da-da. And so Monet is like, because I can't trust you, you haven't shown me I can trust you, and da-da-da. And basically, like, Kane is just going off on her. And he's like, you could have got us both killed. Like, you supposed to trust me. Like, I'm your son. Like, you supposed to trust me, da-da-da. And they're just going at it back and forth. And it was, like, I could understand where Kane was coming from. Because it's like, Monet, you're playing games. Like, you sending Tariq after him and sending him after Tariq, and you playing all these games. Like, girl, you doing too much. And you literally could have gotten them both killed. Like, we know that Mecca is not going to kill Kane because he needs him to maintain connection to the Tahata family. But, like, you don't know that. So we have Tariq on his way to court. He got his little suit on or whatever. He about to go to court. Face beat up because he got beat up the other night. But he's still pulling up to court. He's on his way. Right when he gets us to the courthouse, Monet pulls up on him and is like, get in the car now. She got the blicky in her lap again like before. She's like, get in the car now. Because remember, she told him, if Kane find out what you was up to, we gonna have a problem, basically. And clearly Kane found out. So she's going off. She's acting like she about to do something. And she's like, we about to sit right here so you could lose your sister. And he's like, please let me go into court. Like, if I can't be late, I'm gonna lose. Like, I'm not gonna be able to get my sister. She's like, no, we about to sit here until you lose her, da da da. And then, basically like, I'm gonna kill you, basically. And, Tariq, because he got that James St. Patrick blood, thinking quick on his feet, he's like, no, like, you need me because you think you're on top of everything, but you're not on top of nothing. You don't even know what's going on right under your own nose. You don't know that Kane was the one that sugared the drugs so that he could be your new connect. You don't know that Diana was the one that took the money out the bar so that she could pay legal fees to get Lorenzo out of jail. You don't even know that Drew is still messing with the dude from up at the university. Like, all this stuff is going on under your nose. Like, you need me. And I'm just like, dang, Tariq, you just snitched on everybody in one fell swoop. But again, it's giving very much James St. Patrick. It's giving very much throw every single other person under the bus in order to save myself. And that's exactly what Tariq did. Like, he literally threw the whole damn family under the bus to save his ass in that moment. And it worked because Monet ends up letting him go. He runs in. They do the hearing, and he's basically letting them know that his grandmother is unfit, and he's letting them know, look, like, I'm young, but I'm responsible. I got all the stuff you wanted me to get. I got a job. I got an apartment. Like, I did all that. Like, I want to take care of my sister. And the judge basically is like, we'll grant this on a temporary basis, and then we'll revisit it after that temporary basis is over with. So it seems like a happy ending, right? They get out of court. Everybody's happy. Tariq is hugging on Yasmin. And they're like, I'm gonna go get the apartment together, and then you can come with me. And it just feels like a happy ending. But we know that it's never a happy ending. Why? Because during the process of them being at court, Kamal and some other cops were searching his dorm room. And of course, they found Ramirez'S badge. In the meantime, while all this was happening, Monet had went to go see Mecca, and she basically let him know, like, look, all right, like, let's do this. Like, I need to get some stuff together with my family, but yeah, like, let's do this. So she basically planning to run off with her boo. They have a passionate kiss and whatnot, and she's just like, yeah, let me get some stuff ready and then we can make this happen. So Tariq leaves court, he goes to campus, and immediately when he gets to campus, Brayden is standing in the middle of the quad, like looking at him like, turn around, run, because the police are there. All of a sudden, coming up from behind him is Kamal to arrest him for the murders of both Professor Jabari Reynolds and Detective Ramirez. And so he gets arrested. Everybody's in the quad just standing around looking. Lauren is like, oh my God, what the heck? And Professor Milgram grabs her and is like, let him go, Lauren. He deserves this. And I'm just like, Carrie Milgram, why do you feel so strongly all of a sudden that Tariq deserves this? You do not have any solidified proof that Tariq did this or anything else for that matter. Like, I'm really trying to understand how Carrie made the jump from feeling like Tariq was innocent to being 100% sure that he did this. Like, you don't really have no dirt on Tariq. Like, you have dirt on Monet and the Tahata family, but you don't have any concrete evidence of them being mixed up with him. So, like, I'm just like, you read a manuscript from your crazy ass boyfriend who you know had the story wrong about you sleeping with a student. So if he was completely wrong about thinking you was sleeping with Tariq, could he have not also been wrong about the other stuff he put in his book about Tariq? Like, why are you taking that as like Carrie Milgram is so sure that he deserves this. This is what he deserves. And I'm like, girl, you don't know what he deserves because you don't know anything at this point in time. So, child, anyway, I'm over it with her. But she's, holding Lauren back and she's like, don't worry about him, Lauren. Let him go. He's getting what he deserves. He's a murderer, da-da-da. And they're basically just walking Tariq through in handcuffs. So everybody sees him getting arrested. We see Davis walking elsewhere. He gets a phone call and answers it. We just see him answer the phone and immediately hail a cab. And then we see Tariq in jail. And he's just sitting in a jail cell looking pitiful as hell. And it's like, damn, bro, you in jail. Like, you didn't really think you was gonna get caught when you chose this lifestyle, did you? And that moment, seeing him sitting in jail, it just really made me think of the fact that you was a rich ass kid living in a big ass penthouse to a family with so much money and had so much opportunity, and you chose to be in the streets, and now look at you. Like, you wanted this so bad. So that was just crazy to see. And then the lawyer that's over their estate, he ends up pulling up and to see Tariq, and he's like, has this envelope, and he's like, your dad told me to give this to you if you ever ended up in here. And so then Tariq goes back to read the note, to open and see what's in the envelope. It's a note from James St. Patrick talking about I always knew you would end up in here, little nigga. And I'm like, what the fuck? That is some evil shit. That is some evil shit. Like, in the grand scheme of things, because we know that Tariq murdered his father, it's like, But at the time that James St. Patrick would have written that, he would have been alive. So why was you what? I was like, oh, that's some evil shit right there. So it's kind of funny to me the picture that is ultimately being painted of James St. Patrick with this series, because somehow in everything that has happened, the series managed to make James St. Patrick be the villain. When at the end of the day, James St. Patrick made a lot of selfish decisions, and he made a lot of decisions that negatively impacted other people. but literally so did every single other person in the series. Like, Tasha did, Tommy did, Tariq definitely did, like, Angela definitely did. Like, everybody in the series was making decisions ultimately to benefit themselves at the expense of other people. So it's weird to me how somehow the series has turned James St. Patrick into this ultimate supervillain when he didn't do anything differently than anybody else. Like, when we're really looking at James St. Patrick and Tariq St. Patrick, they are the same person. So it's just wild to me how James St. Patrick has somehow become like this super villain. Tariq reading that letter, it just felt so inaccurate because at the core, James loved his kids. Like, all the BS that Tariq was doing, James was still trying to save him and salvage the relationship with him at the end of it all. Even in this series, the fact that he left Tariq the money, but he has to graduate first, it's like he's still like trying to protect you from that life. Like, you sitting in this jail cell, that's what he was trying to protect you from. Like, he could have just left everything to Yaz and gave you nothing. Like, if he was the villain that the series really wants to make him out to be, like, not saying that he wasn't a bad person, because he was, but everybody was. Like, if James St. Patrick was a bad person because he made a lot of selfish decisions at other people's expense, then every single person on this show is a bad person. So it's just, I don't know. The letter was doing a lot for me because I'm like, James literally loved his kids. He loved Tariq even when Tariq was doing trash shit after trash thing after trash thing, and he still loved him. Like, he was still trying to repair the relationship. He still left him money to make sure he went to school so he wouldn't end up in the streets. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that letter was, it was sending me because I was like, damn, but it just didn't feel accurate. It didn't feel accurate in the Power universe. Let me know what y'all thought about that, because I don't know. I could go on and on about my thoughts about how they're treating the character of James St. Patrick in this series. And I don't know. I'm not really here for it. I'm not really here for us making James be the villain and Tariq be the victim of James, because shit damn near was the other way around. Like, James was the father that was literally trying to keep his kids out of this life, and Tariq was the kid that was doing every single thing he possibly could to get to this life, like, even at the expense of his own family. So let me know what y'all think about that. I could literally do probably a whole video about that, and I might, I don't know. But anyway, Tariq's in jail. He reads that letter from his dad, and he's just kind of sitting in jail like, well, damn, Dad, that's how you really feel. And so in the last part of the show, Monet ends up going home, and as she walks up to the door, mind you, she's trying to, like, she's prepared to, like, get shit together so she could run off with Mecca. Or she gets up to the front door of her house, and she hears, like, people in there talking Spanish. And when she opens the door, big happy family. Lorenzo at the head of the table, and all her kids smiling and full of love and joy. And everybody's like, oh my God, look, Dad's holding it. And Monet got this blank look on her face, like, how did this happen? And it is priceless. And so I'm like, oh, shit's about to get real interesting. And that is how we end episode 5. I felt like this was such a good episode. I have no idea how Tariq is going to get out of this. We'll see. I mean, somehow they're going to get him out of jail. Like, we know they're going to get him out of jail somehow. I'm not sure how. I feel like Whitman is probably gonna do some shiesty shit behind the scenes because he wants it to be Zeke. So I feel like he might do some grimy shit in order to make it be Zeke that ends up letting Tariq go free. We'll see how that all goes down. But I thought this was a really good episode. Tell me what y'all think about this. This is gonna be another long one. They all gonna be long ones. I don't know what to tell y'all. I'm super excited about the next episode. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next review. And thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.